everybody, welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. We have Johan Calleman, who is talking about his book, The Global Mind and the Rise of Civilization. So welcome, Carl.
Thank you, CJ.
I've read the first couple chapters of your book that's coming in September and found the whole idea fascinating. And the idea is, we spend so much time in our minds. And the question is, how did our minds evolve? And how did these great civilizations, like the Egyptian one, even get created? And your first chapter to me was mind-blowing. So can you share with the audience how you started with the book and your thoughts on high-level summary of the book?
Yeah, well, it's I have my background in the Mayan calendar. And this, of course, always brings you back to the ancient civilizations. And the whole question of the meaning of the Mayan calendar and how that is linked to the original rise of civilization on our planet. And this is truly an enigma, I think. Why did the first civilizations, and I'm talking primarily about Egyptian, Sumerian, and the one in the Indus Valley, which are the oldest ones we know of, had a system of writing. And even mainstream archaeologists and historians have to admit that they suddenly just popped up.
Yeah.
And it's like people that had been herders or gatherers or something like that, after a few hundred years, they built these enormous pyramids in Egypt.
Right.
And it's almost like a joke or almost like a crazy
thing. How
thing.
could you create this architecturally complex, mathematically complex problem?
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating.
It is very, very fascinating. And so it's been sort of a weak point, I would say, in the materialist worldview that dominates current science and educational system, because it doesn't really fit.
Right, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make logical sense. Yeah.
Right. Why build that kind of a thing?
I was digging a hole, now I'm going to build a pyramid. Like, why?
Right, exactly. And so what has happened in the past 20 or 30 or maybe 50 years is that there have been alternative historians out there to come up with suggestions of how this might have happened. And basically, they have had two theories. One is the idea that there came extraterrestrials and they sort of taught the people here how to build pyramids and so forth.
Crop circles, whatever, same kind of idea,
Yeah. And the other one is that there must have been some very advanced lost civilization in the past.
Yeah, we just got stupid over time.
Exactly. We just got stupid, and then somehow the Egyptians were able to catch on to what they had left behind.
Yes.
Now, what I'm proposing is something entirely new. And that I really want to emphasize. This is not a repeat of any of the previous theories that have been out there. And what I'm proposing is that there was a significant shift in the global mind.
Yeah.
And so the mind actually came into existence at this point in time. And from this, and once the mind was downloaded by people, they started these enormous constructions that blows our mind, literally speaking.
Yeah.
But that means a real dramatic shift in the worldview, because it means that the mind cannot come from the brain. Then there would not have been such a sudden effect.
Yeah, why all of a sudden do we have these thoughts of building pyramids? Where does that come from? If it wasn't in our own brain and knowledge at that point, where did it come from?
Yeah, where did it come from? So I'm suggesting here like a spiritual source, a spiritual shift or a mental shift, a downloading of a new mentality. And this, I believe, is a way of really making sense of what happened at this early point of humanity.
Yeah, and the one thing and so I'm going to do a little example after reading your first chapter, and the idea that I never really thought about before, but the straight line and all of it connecting into a central point. Where would they have thought of that? Because there was really no idea of straight lines before that. And that idea of a straight line then enabled them to create incredible pieces of architecture, which were then enabling cities to be built, because multi-story buildings can't be built on circles, right? And then that our brain then developed in this hierarchical structured way. In fact, you would, in your first chapter, you argue that the way that we think in our linear, rational, hierarchical way was just kind of downloaded into our brains, which I think is a fascinating thing. Now, there's some genetic components. Like I was telling my son, and he's like, yeah, but monkeys have, like, they're innately born with, like, a hierarchical structure. So there's a little bit of nature in there, but there's something in the mind that happened that we thought, I can think in lines now. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the whole thing, the point that you make in your book, is that one thing, one simple thing of a line and a central point and an organizational structure and a hierarchical and a rational structure then set history, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I can't wait to read the rest of your chapters. It's coming out in September, right?
Yes.
Okay.
September 21st is the preliminary release date.
Okay, folks, The Global Mind and the Rise of Civilization. It has some fascinating theories that you won't read in a common book, and I think are important to think about. Anyways, thank you so much, Carl.
Thank you.